current news podcast.
With Elu and Jesse.
Yes.
Ever see a billionaire, get his head shaved on live TV?
Oh, man.
Yeah, me neither. But that was, just another Tuesday for Vince McMahon.
Right.
And to understand why that even matters, we're about to deep dive into the career of the man who built an empire on body slams and, well, let's be honest, power plays.
Yeah.
You sent over this article detailing the recent allegations against him, and honestly, it reads like a wrestling storyline itself.
It's true. The line between performance and reality, it gets especially blurry when you're talking about someone like McMahon, who practically invented the modern wrestling persona.
Okay, so before we get to the accusations and what they mean for, WWE's future, we have to establish just how big of a deal this is.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not talking some niche hobby here. McMahon took wrestling from regional shows to a global phenomenon.
It's huge.
Billion-dollar industry, sold-out arenas, the works.
And he did it by building a very specific image, both for himself and for the WWE. It's fascinating to look back at how each era, from those classic Hulk Hogan days to the more controversial Attitude Era, reflected not just changing tastes, but maybe also McMahon's evolving grip on power.
Which the article digs into, especially the idea that even before these recent allegations, a lot of people felt like McMahon's on-screen character, that whole Mr. McMahon thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't exactly an ACT.
Right. There's this quote from a wrestler saying Mr. McMahon wasn't that far off from the Vince they knew. And that's where things get complicated. When your brand is built on blurring those lines, on being larger than life, how do you separate the character from the man?
Right.
Can you really be shocked if those lines blur in ways you didn't anticipate?
And to be upfront, we're talking about some serious stuff here. The article lays out the sexual misconduct allegations, the hush money payments, even this lawsuit from Janelle Grant alleging a really disturbing pattern of behavior.
And it's important to note, these are accusations under investigation, not proven facts in a court of law. However, they were significant enough to warrant his departure from WWE, at least for a time.
Which in the world of wrestling is huge GE. We all know those storylines, right? The comebacks, the surprise returns, it's almost part of the deal.
Oh, yeah.
But this article paints a picture of an industry grappling with whether its own rules still apply when the man at the top is facing allegations this serious.
And it forces us to look at this idea of separating the art from the artist, or in this case, the wrestling empire, for the man who built it. The article brings up how McMahon himself has always insisted his on-screen persona was exaggerated. But then it throws in those more revealing details, like his comment about always thinking about sex.
Yeah, that was a choice of words, given everything else going on.
Right.
But it does make you wonder how much of that drive, that need for control that's so core to the Mr. McMahon character, how much of that was him projecting a carefully crafted image versus, revealing something deeper about himself.
And that's where analyzing McMahon gets really interesting. We're not just talking about one man's alleged actions, but how those actions might be intertwined with the very fabric of the world he built.
Right.
Did his personal life bleed into the narratives, or vice versa? It's a question that has plagued artists and entertainers for centuries. It's a question that goes beyond just Vince McMahon and WWE, don't you think? We see it in Hollywood, in the music industry, even in, the art world. Can we or should we separate the creation from the creator, especially when there are allegations of, harmful behavior?
Right. It's like this whole other layer of the match we're watching.
Yeah.
On one hand, there's the legacy of WWE, this global phenomenon built on spectacle and larger-than-life personalities.
And on the other, we have these very serious accusations that force us to examine the human cost of that spectacle.
And maybe even confront how Baby E as fans play into all of this. This article doesn't shy away from how much of WWE's success relied on pushing boundaries, on giving the audience what they wanted, even if it veered into controversial territory.
And that's a recurring theme in entertainment, isn't it? The idea of, giving the people what they want. But what happens when those desires become entangled with a figure who may have abused their power?
And it's not like this is ancient history. The article talks about McMahon stepping down from WWE, then briefly returning before exiting again.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a cliffhanger ending.
It really speaks to the influence he wields, even from the sidelines. But it also feels like we're in uncharted territory here. This isn't just a storyline. These are real-world consequences that have the potential to, reshape the entire industry.
And that's what I found so fascinating with this article. It doesn't just lay out the allegations, but also like hints at these bigger questions about legacy, responsibility, and the future of wrestling itself.
The article even quotes McMahon saying his brain is like multiple computers, and one is always thinking about sex. Now, considering the allegations, that statement takes on a whole new meaning. It makes you wonder about the fine line between a carefully crafted persona and a darker reality.
It's unsettling, to say the least, and it makes you wonder if this entire situation will force wrestling fans to, like, reevaluate their relationship with the sport and the people behind it.
It's like we're seeing the curtain pulled back, not just on Vince McMahon, but on the wrestling industry as a whole.
It's almost like wrestling itself is on trial here, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Can something built on such a potent mix of, like, athleticism, storytelling, and, yes, controversy, can it survive this kind of scrutiny?
Right, and if it survives, will it have to, like, fundamentally change?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. This article isn't just about one man's alleged actions, as shocking as they are. It's forcing a conversation about, like, the power dynamics that have always been present in entertainment.
Right, that old story we see everywhere. Someone at the top, often a man wielding influence over careers, over narratives, over what the audience gets to see. And for decades, that was just how things worked, you know?
Exactly, but what this article highlights, whether intentionally or not, is that we're in a different world now. Audiences are more aware, more critical, and less willing to accept the whole "that's just how it is" explanation.
Yeah, and social media just amplifies everything. This isn't like the old days where wrestling fans, like, talked amongst themselves or maybe wrote a letter to a magazine. Now, every allegation, every rumor, it spreads like wildfire.
Absolutely, which puts WWE and frankly, like any entertainment entity facing similar situations, in a tight spot.
Mm-hmm.
Do they try to control the narrative, which might come across as, tone deaf at best?
Mm-hmm.
Or do they embrace transparency, which, it risks alienating their audience or even impacting their bottom line?
It's like they're caught in a submission hold and there's no easy way out.
Right.
This article hints that even with McMahon gone, like, his fingerprints are all over WWE, can they truly move forward, or will this always be, part of their story?
That's the question they're going to have to wrestle with, both creatively and from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And for us as fans, it raises the question of what we ultimately value. Is it purely about the entertainment, or do we demand more accountability from, the people who provide it?
And maybe that's the most important takeaway from this whole deep dive. It's not just about Vince McMahon. It's about how we as a culture engage with entertainment, especially when it bumps up against our values, our sense of right and wrong. This article gave us a lot to unpack, but it feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Exactly. And sometimes the most insightful deep dives don't leave you with easy answers. They leave you with better questions, ones that linger long after you've finished reading or listening. And in this case, those questions are about, the future of wrestling, the nature of power, and our own roles as consumers of culture.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, one thing's for sure. Whether you're a diehard wrestling fan or someone who couldn't tell a headlock from a hip toss, the story of Vince McMahon is a compelling case study in the complex relationship between entertainment, power, and the always evolving, expectations of the audience.
I think that's right.
Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Turn the dial to the daily news. Bringing voices, headlines, and shoes. You turn the dial to the daily news.